So just try to put yourself there, in the early 1990s in South Africa. This was the terrifying question on everyone's mind. After decades of oppression, of violence, the entire nation was on a knife's edge. Civil war wasn't just a possibility. For many, it seemed inevitable. So how on earth do you transfer power from this deeply dug-in minority government to the majority without the whole thing just imploding?
Well, the answer came from a policy with a pretty brilliant name, the Sunset Clause. The name itself tells you so much, right? It doesn't suggest a sudden, jarring change. It suggests a slow, managed, and predictable transition, just like the sun setting. This wasn't about flipping a switch overnight. It was about carefully guiding the nation out of the darkness of its past and into a new day. And this wasn't just some abstract concept. It became very real, very fast. The Sunset Clause was the actual blueprint for something they called a government of national unity. Now get this, it legally required the newly elected majority, that's the ANC, Nelson Mandela's party, to share power with the very party that had oppressed them for so long. I mean, just think about that. Your former enemies, your jailers, are now forced to be your colleagues in government. It's wild. So South Africa was basically at a crossroads with two very different paths ahead. Path number one was that dramatic, immediate handover of power, a winner-takes-all situation. But that was incredibly risky. The old guard still controlled the military, the police, all the state machinery. A sudden move could have triggered a violent, bloody backlash. Path two, the gradual one offered by the Sunset Clause, was designed for one thing and one thing only: stability. It forced compromise, and it was meant to calm the fears of the people who were about to lose everything they knew. So, who was the brain behind this radical idea of compromise? A man named Joe Slovo. And here's what makes this so incredible. Slovo wasn't some neutral academic or a moderate politician. He was a leader in the South African Communist Party and a key figure in the ANC's armed wing, a committed revolutionary. For him to be the one to propose a gradual power-sharing deal, that was an absolute masterstroke of pragmatism. It sent a powerful signal to the white minority government that the goal was a stable future for everyone, not revenge. And that credibility is what helped break the deadlock. And you can see here just how fast things had to move. The idea gets floated in September 1992, and just 2 months later, the ANC adopts it. That speed really tells you how desperate the situation was, how close to the edge they were. And look at that last date, August 1999. The policy had a built-in kill switch, a clear expiration date. This wasn't a permanent deal. It was a temporary bridge to get them to a new future, and that's the key part that got everyone on board. This quote really gets to the heart of the whole deal. Let's just pull apart the two most important phrases. First, compulsory power sharing. That meant it wasn't optional. You had to work with your former opponents. That was the security blanket for the minority, a promise they wouldn't just be kicked to the curb. But then, for a fixed number of years. That was the crucial guarantee for the anti-apartheid movement. It was the promise that this was just a transition, not a permanent surrender of the power they had fought and died for. So, what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? The Sunset Clause was a strategic, courageous, massive bet. It was a conscious choice. They chose to accept a difficult, messy, but managed compromise over the near certainty of an unpredictable and horrifyingly bloody conflict. It put stability ahead of ideological purity, pragmatism ahead of a perfect victory. And in making that choice, it very well may have saved a nation from destroying itself. And you know, that leaves us with a really fascinating question, one that goes way beyond South Africa. In those moments of huge, profound change, when is it actually wiser to manage a slow, setting sun to ensure a peaceful transition, instead of forcing a sudden, brilliant, and potentially violent new dawn? It's a powerful lesson in the art of the possible.